good practice for that. Okay, so 5.1 is starting a new chapter. We're talking about writing equations in slope-intercept form, and it's kind of like the green sheet you did last week. We probably should have flip-flopped that and done that this first. So the good news is this is going to go really quickly because we pretty much did all the explanation of it that we needed beforehand. So in chapter 4, we had practice with y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. And the reason it's called slope-intercept form is because you can tell by looking at the equation when it's written like this what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. Okay, so this is nothing new to you right now. That's kind of why chapter 5 is almost like a repeat of 4 with a few minor changes. So we should cruise through it pretty quickly. So you know that M stands for slope. Does anybody remember why they use M? The French word monter, M-O-N-T-E-R, means to rise or to climb. So slope is M, y-intercept is B, okay? Not sure why. I'm sure there's something similar like that. So if I were to start you off today and just basically say, okay, if the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is 5, can you write an equation in slope-intercept form? Yeah, you should, right? You just really do some basic substitutions. Y is equal to -2x positive 5. And really we're just kind of getting ourselves more familiar with this formula, okay? So, and then they get a little trickier, like if I were to say the slope is 1 and the y-intercept is -4, okay? To write that, then you know that when your slope is 1, it's the coefficient of x, so you don't really have to write anything in front of the x, do you? So you can just leave it like that, and then knowing that that minus really is that negative that belongs to that 4, okay? Easy enough? What if you had a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 6? It's a 0 slope, which is what kind of a line? Horizontal. So you may think y equals 0x plus 6, but if it's 0x, it's not necessary to write the x. If it's 0x, or if it's 1x, it is necessary, right? So could you really just write y equals 6 for that? Yes. Okay, good. All right. Second thing to kind of remind you of is, when I checked your quizzes and tests this weekend, I saw a lot of people forget to put the x. Like your slope was 5 halves, and then your y-intercept was like 1.5 or 3 halves or whatever, and some people forgot to put the x there. That was a half a point off, because if you put 5 halves and then that, how do I know which one is the slope? The slope is the coefficient for x, so that was a half a point off, okay? And then another couple things, what if you were to see, this is kind of stepping back a little bit, if you were to see something that starts out like this, the rise is 2 and the run is 3. Well, if the slope has a definition of rise, it's really the change in the rise and the change in the run, what would the slope of that be? Yeah, it's like you're looking at it thinking, what does she really ask me? Because it's so simple. 2/3, okay? That's how we start off. Let's talk about what if the rise was a -2 and the run was a -3. And this is where people start to kind of get sloppy and mess it up. Don't leave it like that. A lot of you left the slope like that. And that means that it's what? What is a negative divided by a negative? Positive. So if you ever have that, I want you to picture that canceling. And here's why. Because remember the one on the quiz where you had to tell me if the lines were parallel? Somebody said this was the slope of the first one. This was the slope of the second one. Whoops, over one. And this was the slope of the third one. Okay? And then remember how I told you that if the slope is the same, then they're parallel and they'll never intersect? So technically, don't these two never intersect? But somebody said that these two are parallel and that they won't intersect because they saw negatives there. But a negative divided by a negative gives you a positive, and these two are actually the same. So you got to be careful with that. What if I had a rise of 2 and a run of -10? This is where some people will get that confused. We're going to say that versus a rise of -10 and a run of 2. Okay, you got to know the difference between that. So having a rise of 2 and a run of -10, and a lot of you did not reduce it like I asked you to, that was another half a point. So what should your slope really be when you write your equation? Yep, either 1 over negative 5 or negative 1/5. It doesn't really matter. So that's negative 1/5. But what is this down here? That's not 1/5. That's 5. Or actually, in this case, negative 5. I want you to put it like this all the time. So never leave it as that, okay? Yes, good. I'm glad you... Great question, because having a negative 9 over a negative 8 is different than having a 10 over 2. I'm so glad you asked this, because 10 over 2 divides into a whole number. So you would actually put for this one, y equals negative 5x. Here for this one, you would just put y equals 9/8x. And the reason we don't want to change it to improper is because it's defined as rise over run. You know, now technically, let me just show you this. If you did change it to 1 and 1/8x, you could still plot that. It would just be 1 and 1/8x over 1. But think about it. If you had to graph it, would you rather go up 9 and over 8, up 9 and over 8, or would you rather go up 1 and 1/8 and over 1? 1 and 1/8 and over 1. The important thing is you know that you could do it that way, but easier to just leave it improper. Great question. Okay? So how are you on that? Good? Okay. And then the second part that you're going to see, I'm just going to show you some graphs. And the cool thing about already having done the green sheet is you already know the shortcut. So if they give you a graph, watch. If they give you a graph and say, hey, write the equation of that line, what do you notice that's on here that wasn't on the green sheet? They didn't really give you the points, right? So you should be able to look and say, that goes through the origin or the y-intercept at negative 5, and you know the shortcut for your slope by now. You know to start at the point farthest to the left and go rise and run. And your rise is 4 and your run is 3. So if your rise is 4 and your run is 3, that's called the shortcut. You know that your answer is y equals 4/3 x minus 5, right? Okay? But what if I don't give you a graph? What if I just give you a piece of paper? And on the paper it says, write an equation of slope-intercept form that contains the point 0, negative 5, 0, 3, negative 1. Then what do you do? Well, you don't have that line already plotted for you to just go, whoop, whoop, 4 over 3. So what do you think? Remember, the whole point of 5-1 is getting you comfortable with slope-intercept form. You need an M and you need a B. Well, all I have is 2 points. Where can I find it? You do that one. Yes, you do that one formula thing, right? What I need you to have in the back of your mind at all times for Chapter 5 is this. If they give you 2 points, you know you can find the slope. Let me explain that some of you did it wrong on the quiz, too. Remember, it's the y minus the y over the x minus the x. I had people doing 1 minus 3 and 5 minus 0. It's negative 1. I should have started with an easier one, but negative 1 minus negative 5 over 3 minus 0. And negative 1 minus negative 5 is the same as that, right? And 3 minus 0 is 3. This gives you 4/3. Hey, we knew it was 4/3, right? Because about 2 minutes ago, we just saw that it was 4/3. But you're not always going to be given the picture. So, my question to you is, do you understand what to do? Well, actually, you know what? You know what to do for that. We still have to find the B. How can I find the y-intercept? Think about it. I'm only given 2 points. Where does the y-intercept come from, Nasser? Yeah, the one with the 0. If your x-coordinate is 0, that means your vertical or your horizontal movement, rather, is nothing. Which means you moved 5 down, which means your y-intercept must be negative 5, right? So now you know that you can write 4/3 x minus 5 just from looking at those 2 points. Yeah. You know what? That's a great question. And in section 5.1, every single point they give you is going to have a 0. Because when we did the 1 minus -5, yeah, so it worked out to be that way. So let's do this one. Let's take 4, -1 and 0, 1. And what Nasser wants to know is, well, not every point they're going to give you is going to have that. And that's going to be a 5.2, 5.3 section. We'll talk about what happens then. So write an equation in slope-intercept form. I give you 2 points. So what do you think that your equation should be? Go ahead and try it. So you're looking for your slope, which you know you can find using the formula. And you're looking for your y-intercept, which is kind of looking right at you. Okay, so try to come up with that equation right now. So we have 1 minus -1, -1, 0, 1, yeah, which is really that, right? Over 0 minus 4, which is the same as 2 over -4, which is the same as what? -1/2, which is my slope. And my y-intercept is 1. So do you have -1/2 x plus 1? Yes, hopefully? Yep, okay, good. So you're set on that. And then I have one more type of problem to show you, and you are done for the day. Okay, I'm giving you word problems. They're so incredibly easy. Let's talk about this here. One of the problems that is given in the book, exactly, I just had my daughter's senior pictures taken, okay? And you know when you get your senior picture or your pictures taken, there's always like a sitting fee, right? So photographers now, they charge you an amount of money just to, and then they say, where do you want to take your pictures at? You want me to meet you at Heritage Park? Do you want me to meet you downtown? Do you want to go to Elizabeth Park? So for the senior pictures are not cheap. It was a $250 sitting fee. So I pay this lady $250 and I have her for an hour. I could change outfits as many times as she needs to, $250. That doesn't give me any pictures though, does it? Okay? Because after she develops all these pictures and sends them to me and I choose the ones I want, she's going to charge me $10 for every picture that I buy. Okay? Regardless of what size it is. If it's an 8x10, whatever. Okay? So if all I'm given is that information, can you write me an expression to kind of help me represent how much my cost is going to be to this lady? Yeah, so first thing you're going to want to decide is to choose your variables. Now today, I might recommend using C and P's instead of like X's and Y's. I'll give you the choice though. If you're talking money and you always want to know how much is it going to cost you, we always use C for cost. And then I'm going to use P for the number of pictures that I choose to buy. That makes sense, right? So right now, come up with an equation. Yeah. Yeah. So she's saying 250 plus 10P equals C. There are so many ways to write this, okay? Some of you might say cost equals first, and then some of you are very by the book, meaning I gave her 250 first, and then I'm adding to that $10 per picture. Some of you, like me, to me that looks like it's, like I want that P first, right? So I want that cost equals to $10 a picture plus that startup fee. Aren't we kind of used to having our startup fee at the end? We're used to seeing our y-intercept at the end. Whatever you're more comfortable with. Guess what? You could even just do y equals 10x plus 250, couldn't you? Look at all the different ways you can do it. You choose the one that is most comfortable for you. Understand? Okay? Now, that was a piece of cake. The only difference with section 5.1 is now they're going to ask you to use that formula to answer a question. Because what then if I were to say, I'm going to ask you two questions. I have my equation, and then I look at her pictures, and I find 15 that I love. I want to order 15. Okay? So if I order 15 pictures, my question then would be, what's my cost? Okay, so I need to know that I'm just assigning a value to P now, aren't I? And now that I have my fancy equation, here's where the C and the P comes in handy, because now I know to put the 15 here. If it's X's and Y's, you're kind of like, oh shoot, you kind of really need to understand a little bit better where this equation came from. So I need to know that it's $10 per picture. So my cost is going to equal $10 per picture plus my sitting fee. So I'm going to owe $150 just in photos, $250 for the fee, and then I owe her $400. Do you understand? Okay? They may not ask you how much the cost is. I may say, as a parent who has to budget, and I just did senior pictures last year for my son in graduation, you know what, Emma? You get $500. That's all I'm spending on you. So what if I have a budget, and I need to stick to a budget of $500 for senior pictures? What question do I ask now? Good. Now with a budget of $500, how many pictures can I buy? Okay. Now what did I give you? Now I'm trying to solve for P, the number of pictures, and I'm giving you the cost. Do you see? This one's a little trickier to solve for, but would you just do 500 equals 10P plus 250? And now I want you to think about this. Kids who have no idea how to solve equations can answer this question, because you know what they do? They would say, well, if I had 500, wouldn't I need to subtract 250 from it first? Because that's how much I have to give her before I even can get pictures taken. And now that I have 250 left, wouldn't I just divide that by the cost for one picture to see that I can buy that? You could do that in your head. Let's show that algebraically now. Here's me subtracting my startup fee, my sitting fee. Here's me saying 250 equals $10 per picture, and now here's me dividing by 10, and I did basically the same thing, so I'm getting 25 pictures for $500. Do you understand? Okay? So, if I asked you to then make ordered pairs of this, for 25 pictures, it would cost $500. What was it for 15 pictures? $400. Okay? So if I asked you to plot that, would you be able to make an ordered pair of that and plot it and say this is the number of pictures, this is our cost? Do you remember doing this? Yeah? Okay, so that's it. That's all I need from you today. Your assignment is written up on the board. Let me write it up here for you.